All right, good evening and welcome. My name is James Duquette. I'm Associate Professor of Creative Writing and English at Riverside City College in Riverside, California. I'd like to welcome you all to the 2021 book launch of RCC MUSE, publishing diverse prose, poetry, and art from contributors all around the world. Tonight, we will share poetry, prose, and art from the spring 2021 issue of MUSE, our 35th year. There will be two halves of reading with an intermission of art pieces from this issue of MUSE. What you're seeing right now is the cover for this year's edition. After the two halves and the art, we will be having an open mic. If you'd like to participate in the open mic at the end, you'll need to be in the Zoom and give your name to one of the editors by writing in the chat, either now or during intermission. This is our second issue created during the pandemic. And the tenacity, commitment, and creativity of my editorial staff shows through. This team, having never met physically in person, created an incredible physical book. As editors Alana Guevara and Ryan Fingerly wrote in their introduction to this issue of MUSE, quote, "We have spent all this time learning new ways to survive. We believe the following collection of prose, poetry, and art represents just that, survival." And that's our theme, really. And we invite you to enjoy these moving expressions of survival and of loss from people literally around the world and right here in Riverside, California, where we are based. The Spring 2021 issue of RCC MUSE is on sale now, on pre-order sale. And through tomorrow at distribution time, which is through noon tomorrow, you can get a copy for just $10, which is $2 off the cover price. You can order that by going to Venmo and using @RCC MUSE. Just put MUSE 2021 in the comment. You can physically pick up that copy of MUSE at our social distance drive-through distribution event tomorrow from 10 to noon. This will be at RCC. The pre-order price will still be in effect, and you can come and pay with cash or with check as well. Naomi Maida, our cover artist, will even be on hand to personally sign copies. We are also currently requesting and accepting donations in any amount on Venmo. Your contribution of as little as $5 goes directly toward support of the pre-professional apprenticeship model program and community-facing work that these student editors have participated in. So please, if you can, open up that Venmo app and throw us a few bucks, won't you? That's @RCC MUSE on Venmo. And if you want to help us out but can't afford to make a monetary donation, you can still help by going to our YouTube channel. Easiest way to do that right now is to Google RCC MUSE, YouTube, and subscribe. We are just a large handful away from being able to get a customized URL, which would allow us to share the things that we do more easily. And as always, join us on the socials. We're @RCC MUSE on IG, @RCC MUSE Magazine on Facebook, and you can find us online at rcc.edu/muse. I would like to thank the Associated Students of Riverside City College, ASRCC, for their generous support. RCC President Gregory Anderson, Languages, Humanities, and Social Sciences Dean Christy Woods, and the entire English department at Riverside City College, whose support for MUSE has allowed it to flourish and amplify the creativity of historically underrepresented people. Thank you very much. And finally, we would like to especially thank Professor Joe Scott Coe, whose work in support of MUSE as a program elevated this art and literary journal to the place it is today. This work would not have been possible without you. So I'm going to ask you to get comfortable, relax, and enjoy the show. We really do read the things that you write, and hopefully you will comment to us, send us good thoughts. And you know, I would be remiss if I didn't mention one more person, our designer. If you look back over my shoulder, you can see 9 separate covers. The top row here are the last 4 years. The bottom row, and then there's a great one I just kind of stuck over there, are the previous 5, which represent 9 years of the current generation of RCC MUSE. Eleonora Reyes designed all of the last 4. He has been the editor, senior editor, and now designer 4 years running. There is a lot about the beauty of the book. If you like the way your words look on the page, and we really hope you do, and you like the way the art looks, it's down to him and the work that he's done. Some really incredible design work, and we're just really proud to have him. Okay, so let's get started. Our first reader is Bonnie B.A. Bonnie wrote into her mid-30s. She was published in poetry and a few small journals. She started writing again after retirement and has been published in Rhino, Dunes Review, Gyroscopic Review, Raven's Perch, and Entropy, among other journals. She worked as a gardener in New York City. Please welcome Bonnie B.A. reading The Boy in 10th Grade.
I want to say, as a retired gardener, I absolutely love the cover of MUSE. It is just gorgeous. I'm not sure when I should start reading though.
Oh, you can, yes, that's a great, thank you, Bonnie. You reminded me I'm supposed to share my screen. Thank you.
Okay.
That was excellent. You gave me a good cue right there. Thank you for your help.
The boy in 10th grade. We sat in the middle of the street on a warm night, brick houses marching either side of us to the traffic light and the turn onto the highway. And bigger places. We believed in a bigger world waiting for us. We sat protesting how small the town was. We sat for hours. No one passed. You died that year. If you'd been older, I might have kissed you. I wanted to kiss you. How could you die at 16? Together in the street 56 years ago, your face close to mine, your black curly hair. If I'd told you, I'll write you a poem when I'm old, you would have laughed.
Thank you, Bonnie. We like to do a thing in a workshop that I lead, which is we do a golf clap. I like to do golf clap. So if you're in the Zoom and you want to do golf clap,
I have to tell you that while Zoom has a lot of positives, the group that I belong to in Brooklyn Poets, is having a live poetry reading in July. I'm going to get to see people, and I'm very excited.
My son graduated high school yesterday, and being in a space with other human beings was truly moving, I got to admit. Although I will say, not the one thing, but one of the things that has been wonderful about doing these kind of events for Muse is the fact that we are able to have people from far-flung areas. When we do live, I mean, we have more people maybe or live, and there is that energy that you can't reproduce, but we are able to have and bring in folks from all over. And so
there's a lot of good in it. And when we give workshops at Brooklyn Poets, there are people from New Zealand, there are people from all over the world, and I don't want to cut that out, but I want to sit at your kitchen table.
Sure. You can come in my backyard. All right. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Muse's own Ryan Fingerly. Ryan Fingerly loves to escape to different worlds through her reading and writing. Besides the temporary escape from reality, her love of words has allowed her to express her memories and experiences through poetry. As a proud deaf woman, she has never allowed her inability to hear to prevent her from achieving her many goals and dreams. Please welcome Ryan Fingerly.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here. I am honored to be here. And I want to warn you, I'll probably stumble or mispronounce along the way. So you're welcome to laugh. It's all good with me. Okay. Stuck in the middle. I was born deaf, but that didn't automatically make me a part of the deaf community. I am wearing a cochlear implant, but that didn't automatically make me a part of the hearing world. I spent years in speech therapy learning how to listen to speak so I can talk with other hearing people. Sometimes I still stumble, fumble, stutter, and mispronounce English words and sentences. I have spent years using American Sign Language so I can communicate with other deaf people. Sometimes I still make mistakes by using the wrong sign or forgetting the proper sign for a specific word. I can't be 100% hearing. I do not have the ability to hear. The cochlear implant helps me to hear, but it's not the same thing. Hearing people don't see me as an equal. I am 100% deaf, but I am not 100% deaf. I am fluent in American Sign Language, the language of the deaf community. But because I was born into a hearing family, deaf people don't see me as the equal. I just stand in the middle where I am 50% hearing, where I am 50% deaf. At least is where I feel 100% accepted. Thank you.
Yay. I'm going to read the footnote, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Small d deaf, used to describe or identify anyone who has a hard of hearing or hearing loss and has not yet integrated into the capital D deaf community. Sign language may not be their first or primary choice of communication. Capital D deaf, used to refer to people who identify themselves as culturally deaf and part of the deaf community. The use of sign language tends to be their primary source of communication. Thank you very much for sharing, Ryan. Okay. Next, I'm going to bring forward Muse editor Alana Guevara. She will read a poem from Tony Vick. Tony Vick has been incarcerated for 25 years, serving a life sentence. He writes about the experience of confinement to bring awareness about needed prison reform and other social reform issues. Here is Alana Guevara reading Mother Earth by Tony Vick.
I'm really honored to be able to read this for everybody. And my dog might be honored to bark for everybody as well. So Mother Earth by Tony Vick. The whiff of strong coffee brewing and fresh cut bacon sizzling hits my nose and wakes me before the rooster yelps, "Good morning." Standing on my porch watching the sun rise over the fields of corn stalks swaying in the wind, sopping of the remaining red eye gravy with the biscuit left in my saucer. Squeezing the warm, full udders of our milk cow while sounds of fresh dairy ping the metal bucket as she munches on the grain placed before her. The smells, the sights, the feelings of the earth and all her glories remind me of the simple things. Those things I took for granted, those things I now long for. How I betrayed you, Mother Earth. You gave me your best, and I showed you my worst. Deprived of your love, now your mud and sand formed the concrete pillars that imprison me. Your metals shaped into bars that I peer through where I see beyond the razor wire, watching the trees bow at your majestic wind. Bring me back to your bosom, and I will not forsake you again. Let me die in your earth and return to it the dust that you formed me with. Thank you.
Thank you. Yay. Golf clap, golf clap, golf clap, golf clap. Our next reader is Craig Cotter. Craig Cotter's poems have appeared in many journals. I could list them all, but we'd be here for a long time, and that's not a bad thing, but a lot. It's been a lot. He's done a lot. Great stuff. His fourth book of poems, After Lunch with Frank O'Hara, currently available from Chelsea Station Editions, was a finalist for the National Poetry Series. In 2019, his new manuscript, Alex, was a finalist for the Tampa Review Prize. You can find him at www.craigcotter.com. Please welcome Craig Cotter reading Ayaz Marhoni and Mahmoud Asghiri.
I'd like to thank James and the other editors of MUSE for selecting this poem for their journal and for arranging this reading. My poem, Ayaz Marhoni and Mahmoud Asghiri, is a very difficult one, pure horror. It details the account of the torture and murder of gay teenagers by the government of Iran in 2005. The historical record of these events is not clear, as the boys did not receive due process in the Iranian courts and public records are not available. These events received very little coverage in the mainstream media at the time, although Anderson Cooper did a brief segment on them on CNN in 2005. And my hope is that Ayaz and Mahmoud are remembered, and that in chronicling these events, the lives of gays internationally might be improved. Ayaz Marhoni and Mahmoud Asghiri. The Iranian government held a public execution to murder gay lovers Mahmoud Asghiri, age 16, and Ayaz Marhoni, age 18. They were arrested at 14 and 16, tortured 2 years, and forced to tape a confession that they were in love. Handcuffed together before their public execution, photographs show them crying as a microphone is held in front of their faces. Instead of building gallows that snap the neck instantly, they were hoisted slowly, nooses around their necks, and strangled to death over 20 minutes. Mahmoud jerked so much, one of his sandals came off. And the note at the end of the poem is they were publicly executed in Adalat Justice Square in Masad, northeastern Iran on July 19th, 2005.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's important to recognize the violence that has come before, even when it's difficult to look at, and not pretend that things didn't happen. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that.
Thank you.
I want to go back to gallery view just to say hi to everybody. Look at all the people. Hi. And James Reed, I know you came in a little bit later, but I just want to let you know that after our little art intermission, which we're about to do, you'll be the next person to read. So just kind of letting you know. I think I need to make you a co-host to do that, though. Otherwise, you won't be able to unmute yourself. Aha! I did it. I remembered. Perfect. Yay! All right. Our next part here is the art intermission. This features art from the 2021 issue of MUSE. I hope you enjoy it. We're very proud of the art in this particular issue. It's really great. And also, if you want to sign up for open mic, now's the time to send a chat message to one of the hosts, Alana, Logan, even Ryan, are all editors and can help you out. Oh, Brenda too. Sorry. Hi, Brenda. Sorry about that. Almost forgot. And so let's listen and watch some art. I would like to thank all of the artists who submitted. Yes, definitely golf clap. Many golf claps. The art in this issue really is amazing and lovely. Buy a copy. Remember the spring 2020 issue, 2020. Why do I have a hard time saying that? Spring 2021 issue. Spring 2021 issue. The spring 2021 issue of RCC MUSE is on sale now. And tonight and tomorrow only, you can get your copy for just $10, which is $2 off the regular cover price. You can pay us at Venmo at RCC MUSE. And then, of course, you can pick up a physical copy at our social distance drive-through distribution event tomorrow between 10 a.m. and noon at RCC. If you happen to know RCC at all, we'll be in front of the Quad building. We're in the south, near the southwest entrance on Fairfax. Naomi Veda, our cover artist, will be on hand and available to even sign copies. Again, if you want to make a donation to Muse, we gladly accept. And if you can't make it to the distribution and you still want a copy, we charge just what the postage is, which is about $3. So we charge $3 to mail. And if you want to put the extra $3 in, $10 plus 3 for us to ship it to you, just put your name, obviously, and address in the notes. All right, second half. Let's go second half, which may be longer than the first half. I'm telling you about. Next is a short story from James Reed. Need to share. Don't stop sharing.
All right.
Share.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'll say welcome to you. Actually, hold on for 1 second and let me
Okay.
to speaker view. I'm gonna just read your bio and we can go from there.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sure. Stories by James Reed have appeared in journals like Fern Literary Magazine, Pacific Review, Brilliant Corners, and the Saturday Evening Post. And among other awards, he holds a fellowship in creative writing from the National Endowment for the Arts. Here is James Reed reading new versions of Maybe.
Thanks so much. I want to thank all of you at the magazine for giving my story a really nice home. And I especially want to thank Ryan Fingerly today because she worked so hard with my wife back and forth to make sure I could get signed up. We had some technical problems. So sorry to be late, but she's the genius who made that work.
And
Thank you
we're
so
just
much.
glad to have you. And thank you, Ryan. Yay!
Yeah, Ryan, save that for sure. All right, the story is called New Versions of Maybe. My second barber died of sepsis, my first of a heart attack, 20 years younger than I have reached now. This came to mind yesterday after my sponge bath. My sweat is a constant, slow seepage without regard to exertion. The incisions are healthy, checked and dressed daily, so I have no complaints. At my age, it's good to feel well attended. I dread going home. The woman who would not have me doesn't know my situation, or does and does not care, or assumes it's best I slide unacknowledged. She's right to think so, or entitled. Disappointment and grudges are cousins, not twins. I learned of the first man's death when I called for an appointment. His employer told me, the same man who'd taken him in when his own shop failed. He'd been at the new location 5 or 6 years. His life seemed settled after a grueling divorce that trailed into court orders and lawsuits, at some point an arrest. It was hard to keep track. He did not receive custody, nor was he surprised. But all that seemed over. Every haircut, he laid out his latest relationship. Quarrels he admitted, but kept to a minimum, he claimed, indeed boasted. He was proud of restraint, newly embraced, implemented as policy, with clenched teeth he hoped would pass for a smile. Overall, he was coping, made a show of enjoyment. Who was I to doubt or question? Some guy in a chair. Others sat waiting, although there were fewer. His avid insistence required patience or boredom or the secret, calm, smug martyrs, smug, calm martyrs show in the mirror. He charged me the same, but for others raised prices. Long-time loyalty on my part. Also, I tipped well. Overly so when I first didn't know better, then continued forever, lest I'd look cheap. He'd been buried 2 weeks when I called, right on schedule. I'm sorry to tell you, he's passed, the man said. No doubt he stood, phone in hand, holding clippers, paused as he answered, used to the questions, and under the sheet, one of his customers, dozing or not, but also on hold. Soon he was kind enough that I became one of them. He tended toward silence. He generally listened to others, that is. I didn't much speak. My hopes for romance I always kept secret. Not out of shame, I wasn't embarrassed. Such matters were private, no one's business, I'd say, except those involved. I practiced decorum in my maladroit way. Much time had passed since the issue concerned me, a widower's slow to see any need. Perhaps I was shy, distant, well-mannered, despite my true interest held in check to be careful for her sake and mine, and the idea surprised me. Half my age, and she welcomed my dry conversation. She smiled when I talked and did not turn away. Who wouldn't be fooled and hypnotized grateful? I told myself she need only listen. She knew better. Despite me, I gave her the willies. My posture was good. I did not stoop or dodder. My clothing was clean and without disarray. I worked to be pleasant and proved myself harmless often and well. I advanced no agenda and exuded goodwill. I listened and smiled and tried not to pry. She told me her bosses dismissed her as youthful. Her husband advised a harsh tone to thwart them. She asked my opinion. I proposed several options and the next day offered more. I've been thinking, I said. I said. She watched more than listened as I made my suggestions. You know, it occurred to me, I began the next morning. She thanked me and said, please don't bother. I should not waste my time. Thus, I learned not to press. I saw her spine stiffen. I was patient and waited with help if she wanted. Available only, seek and she'd find. Reliable then, a quiet, calm sentinel. I hoped she'd be grateful. I gave myself credit for wistful failures and fancies I'd never indulged. It wasn't my nature, not once, to be bold. Why her? I don't know. So much wasted time on the edge, always stalling. New versions of maybe, a fresh, endless daydream, perfect, familiar, a gift every time. It was months before I noticed her makeup. She was so skillful. Some shift in the light or all those weeks staring surreptitiously, always because I was careful, allowed me to see the thick dust of skin tones, the so perfect blend at the base of her neck. Where it stopped, where it started, I never could tell. The powder was rough where it clumped in old acne, but otherwise smooth, the color of ivory and cool to the touch, or so I imagined. All this was contrivance once I saw the close details, dry silt newly fallen like breath on a window, brushed and painted each morning on her face, neck, and throat. Hours of effort feathered to nothing to make the mask flawless. Her blue eyes staring, peering slowly, the careful inspection, with the result that I yearned. So sad and so earnest, a stock figure of fun. Regrets now as empty as years of desire. This all seemed so clear once I lost interest. My, she was lovely, flawed. She listened, some, humored me mostly, enough for my purposes, whatever they were. Whatever they were. I cherished each moment, that much I remember. They felt lighter than air, but somehow sustained me and remained unconfessed. No ache or need led me to hint or confide. I sometimes stirred the memories, eyes closed or open, a customer quiet as the man cutting my hair, content as he listened, unruffled by silence, his own or mine. His spell at the hospital, might have alarmed him. Successful procedure, recovery gone wrong. I hope it was fast or so unexpected he was not left to worry. I found out weeks later his shop had been closed. My concern for so much was already diminished. TV and movies seemed false, not erotic, so flat and empty I couldn't be bothered. A hardly new insight. I'd stepped out of range in a manner of speaking. I'm the one AWOL or come to my senses, withdrawn from the racket, all the hope and that noise. And yet I can't help but look. I've been trained all my life, but now I don't care. It's an empty, plain, dumb show, rigged by long habit. But now I'm so distant, faint chances don't faze me. I'll never collect. It's too late for nonsense. I can't stand. I can't walk. I don't sit unadjusted. The room has an air of garlic and sulfur. My dreams feel like waking. I'm never sure when or what I'll expel. I lie still and listen, my eyes mostly open. I stare or I don't. I'll slide, never noticed. She'll be none the wiser. I'm shy to this day, withdrawn and reserved. It's the idea that saves me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yay, golf clap, golf clap, golf
Thanks
clap,
so much.
golf clap. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Our next reader is Erica Aragon. Erica Aragon works in information technology and makes her home in Southern California. She participates in workshops hosted by the Inlandia Institute, an organization dedicated to recognizing, supporting, and expanding literary activity in all of its forms in the Inland Empire. Erica's interest in writing stems from a desire to connect and continuously explore what it means to be human. Please welcome Erica Aragon reading Hospice. Hi, Erica.
Hi, James. Thank you for the intro. So I'll be reading Hospice. I have you closer than I ever did since they shut it all down. They kept me from my nightly venture to Building 3, Room 402B, where visiting hours meant nothing. The night nurse brought us sandwiches, ham and cheese to my peanut butter jelly. Only allowed an hour a day here. Arms soft as when I held them, just a babe. Details video call can't transmit. I'll take what I can get. Rest of the time, the Golden Girls will have to keep you company. Tracing hands over yours, I bump into the clip for the morphine keeping you peaceful. Your state sedated by a brain that won't respond. Eyes that might open but don't see. I still see you in the cloudy green. Matted knots tell the months you spent tubed down your throat. Days I spend now, teasing out the twists and tangles of you and our history together. Gentle spray, working strand over strand. I rush to ready you before lungs say it's time to rest. One snag I just couldn't get as the scrubs entered to wheel you away. On my fingertips, the sweet smell of your hair.
Thank you. As I say, our theme of surviving and of loss is real, and it emerges. One of the things that with a magazine, with a journal like this, we get hundreds of submissions. We get hundreds of submissions. And I tell the editors, as we're selecting, that we shouldn't be thinking about anything other than what's moving. We're not thinking about a theme. We're not thinking about anything except, what's the best of what we're getting and how is it moving us? And then as time goes on, an aesthetic emerges. And that's what happened with this book in a moving way. I think I'm going to step back and editorialize for just a moment to say that this is been an incredibly difficult time. And I think one of the things that's beautiful about this book is the celebration of making it and struggling as well. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you. Thank you, Erica. Next, Madeline Wise couldn't be here this evening. And so one of MUSE's editors, Brenda Fregosa, is going to read her short story, The Ambulance Driver. I will read Madeline's bio first. Madeline Wise writes fiction and poetry, and her work has appeared in American Fiction Volume 13, the North Atlantic Review, Evening Street Review, San Pedro River Review, Coneflower Cafe, and other journals. Madeline is a member of Solstice Writers and Napa Valley Writers. She lives with her husband in St. Helena, California. Here is Brenda Fregosa reading The Ambulance Driver.
Thank you. Okay. On the ambulance driver's afternoon off, he carries his stocky body from his car in the parking lot through the entrance and checks in at the reception's desk. He heads for the elevators, greeting familiar faces with a thumbs up, a wave, a nod. Once in the nursery area, he methodically washes his hands with antibacterial soap, followed by a hand sanitizer. He seats himself in the high back rocker and waits for the nurse to come. She settles a swaddled crying infant into his sturdy arms and leaves the room. He recognizes the squirming baby as the boy he rocked 3 days ago, the unfortunate little guy who entered the world drug affected. He rests the infant's head against his chest so the baby will hear his heartbeat, feel his voice, and the easy weight of his hands. With a gentle rocky motion, the ambulance driver begins a rambling monologue about his friends at work, his past job as a youth gymnast coach. He questions the baby, asks if he'll like to be a gymnast someday, says he would like to be his coach. He relates a time in his life when he was a volunteer firefighter. He tells the infant about his family, his parents, his sisters, and a brother. When his monologue drifts to the end, the baby whimpers and the man begins to hum. He is determined to hum and cuddle for as long as it takes. The rocking continues, slows, becomes hypnotic, and in time, the infant settles and falls asleep. The man closes his eyes for a short while to better keep the moment, to better absorb the peace. Both the worlds, the infant's and his own, seem to merge. Not for the first time, but now with a sleeping child in his arms. The man's thoughts begin to wander. He lets himself drift to a place far away, a place he can only imagine. He knows that over 40 years ago, in the city of Seoul, a young woman left him on an orphanage doorsteps in the dark of night. He knows nothing more of his past. Yet now, with a slumbering infant in his arms, he knows a place of peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Yay. Once again, just a reminder to those in the Zoom, we have ASL interpreters that you can watch by clicking on Gallery View. Next, I get a chance to read one of the poems submitted. The poem is Paul Hostovsky's The Sharpest Knife in the Drawer. Paul Hostovsky is the author of 11 books of poetry, most recently Deaf and Blind, from Main Street Rag. He's won a Pushcart Prize, 2 Best of the Net Awards, and the Future Cycle Poetry Book Prize. He makes his living in Boston as a sign language interpreter. You can find him at paulhostovsky.com. This is The Sharpest Knife in the Drawer. He's not, but you know what? I prefer a wide butter knife myself. The sort that knows how to spread the good stuff around, the kind that slathers it on, gets some on his nose and chin, then wipes it dopily on his sleeve. The sharp ones put me on edge. They make me uncomfortable. And anyway, they don't live in the drawer. They live up there on the other side of the countertop, their perfect teeth hidden in the wooden slots. Bottom line, I love a long-handled ice cream spoon, the kind that knows how to plumb the depths of the tapered sundae glass for the last drop of fudge. So I'd like to say thank you to Paul Hostovsky for sharing that with us. And our final reader for the official book launch portion is Joe Weintraub. Joe is a member of the Dramatists Guild. He's had one-act plays and staged readings produced throughout the world. He's published fiction, essays, and poetry in all sorts of literary places, from the Massachusetts Review to New Criterion, from Prairie Schooner to Modern Philology. His annotated translation of Eugène Griffo's Paris à table, 1846. I'm not going to try and say that in French. Wait, maybe I can. 1886. How'd I do?
Beautiful.
No. Yeah, no, that was 86. I said 86 instead of 40, whatever it is. Was published by Oxford University Press in 2018. There's more at jweintraub.weebly.com. Here's Joe Weintraub reading The Elderly Poet Considers His Dotage.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me in such a wonderful journal. I certainly appreciate it. I do want to say this is a dramatic monologue. The elderly poet of the title is not me, and as far as I can tell, my dotage has not yet arrived, as far as I can tell. The poem comes with 2 epigrams. I'll just read the first. All your poems are, in a sense, one poem, and there's always the struggle of getting something that balances and comes out right. Robert Lowell. And here's the poem. The elderly poet considered his dotage. I can still write poems in a burst of energy and inspiration, and just as my imagination darkens, petrifies, as the first words disappear, I get them down. But when I return to read, revise, words shift and spin, turn round and round as meaning recedes before my eyes. Rhymes rebel, meters bleed right off the lines. No, those words are from some other hand, not mine. I begin again, erasing, reclaiming anything I can, although I'm never really sure I haven't done it all before. The same images, lines, the same rhythms and rhymes, inscribed, expunged, and then restored. But I suppose it doesn't matter at all, just as long as it's done and done right. But I suppose it doesn't matter at all, since I've written the same poem all my life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So that brings us to the end of the formal portion of our event. Remember, the spring 2021 issue of RCC Muse is on sale now. Tonight and tomorrow, you can get it for just $10, just $2 off the cover price. Payment can be made at Venmo, at RCC Muse. This is a limited edition. We only have so many that we print. And of course, you can pick up that copy physically at our social distance drive-through distribution event tomorrow between 10 and noon at RCC in front of the Quad Building. We are also currently requesting and accepting donations of any kind on Venmo. Any contribution, as little as $5, goes directly to support the pre-professional apprenticeship model and community-facing work that these students do and the editors have participated in. That's RCC Muse on Venmo. And if you want to help us out and can't afford to make a monetary contribution at this time, Google RCC Muse YouTube, subscribe to us. If we get a certain number of subscriptions, we are able to customize our link, and therefore we will be able to share more easily the stuff that we do. And as always, find us on the socials. Instagram at RCC Muse. We post there most frequently, but we're also on RCC Muse Magazine, all one together, on Facebook. And of course, you can find us at rcc.edu/muse. So thank you for coming to our book event. But we're going to pivot now to the open mic portion. You are all welcome to stay. We're going to keep going on Facebook and on YouTube. For poets who are reading, for anybody who's going to read, I'm going to ask you to keep your time to either a couple of minutes or to 2 pieces, whichever comes first. And I'm going to start the open mic by doing something I have never done at a Muse event before. I'm going to read. I'm going to read a poem. And I'm going to read a poem because, and the reason I signed up and put myself at the top of the list is because this is my first chance to read this poem while the Jacaranda are in bloom. This was published last year. This particular poem was published last year after the Jacaranda had faded. And so this is my first chance while we have weeks of purpling to read to you. You know what I don't have? I don't have it for you to read along with me. Oh well, c'est la vie. It's called Jacaranda, and I've even got a little post-it note that's vaguely the color of Jacaranda. Maybe it doesn't look that way in this light. Days over decades, I tried to capture the blooms glowing to the rhythm of the 134 north to Ventura, south to LA. I climbed on the roof of the car, ran across the grass to line up the trees, stood, crouched, jumped once to fill the lens with that purple that brasses like a marching band, purple that shouts at passing cars. It's not lavender. Lavender is light. Lavender is kind. Jacaranda would disconnect the battery cable of your car and strand you in the parking lot. Just try to ignore it. Jacaranda says it loves you, asks you out, then cancels because it gets drunk and falls in the rain. Its bruise rising between the sidewalk and the sky. Staggering phosphorescence, unreproducible purple. Don't even try. Short-term or not, goddamn phosphorescence. There is a verb that means to place alongside for comparison, but it's all purpling madness, and the wild parrots scream at the same dusk. Haven't we all fallen in the street, nearly glowed in the dark, started, but not wanted to end so soon? Thank you. I'm gonna golf clap for myself. I think we only have a couple of people, and they might be Muse editors that want to read, and that's okay. Are you next, Alana? Who's next? Who goes next?
Yeah, I think I'm next.
Cool.
I'll take it.
And after you, it's Logan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then if
Okay.
anyone else wants to read, we can, or if not, we'll wrap it up.
All right, so I have 2 poems to read you all. They're both entitled because I never got around to giving them names. So the first one, my sins awash with the crimson tide as I float on, belly up, above fish like writhing thoughts, and seaweed fingers plucking and drowning me piece by little piece. The cold holds me close, presses my face against his breast. I blush, too shy to emerge from the water. Blood flows through foreign canals, charted yet unexplored, and pools down in basins to be scrubbed clean with vinegar or bleach or Lysol or whatever is stored below the kitchen sink, time and time and time again. Wash my face, wash my hands, wash my sins down that drain where dreams often go. And then my second poem begins, I think I thought enough, but I can't just magically make them shut up. In the daytime whining, at night they scream like a horror picture show crowd cast to the aged silver screen. My thoughts are poison, paralyzing, and potent. As choice lies ahead, I regret what I've chosen. To ignore is to disassociate, assemble, appear. At these times, although it appears I am fine, if you peer through the window during a time when I am not trying on my sister-in-law's hand-me-down spaghetti strap asymmetrical dress or panties made only for people like me, you too might think I am fine. And that's that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yay, thank you.
I'll golf clap for myself as well.
Okay, great. Logan is going to read, I think, Logan, you're going to read one of your own poems, right?
Yeah, I'm just okay, cool. The audio, I was making sure the audio was working so people on YouTube can hear me too.
And then Craig will read a poem.
Yeah, so this one's called A Thought on Death. Sometimes I think about my own inevitable mortality. Not in a depressing way, mind you, just about what might happen. Where people go is a question that's been asked forever, and I don't know, but I found a way to make a few minds a little more sound. I think each religion is sort of like a ghost corporation. Christians believe in heaven and hell, but I think they're just like upstate New York apartments versus a duplex with a few burst pipes and a neighbor who smokes by the AC unit. There's still punishment and reward, but it's all still Christianity. It also makes sense that God tossed out Lucifer because maybe he tried to unionize. The Buddhists are probably something of a vacation or job reassignment company where they send a soul back to do better until they get to nirvana. Talk about a retirement being a world away, huh? I think that those who worshipped Greek or Roman gods would go serve them in some way, and that they have very strong feelings about Percy Jackson. Those who believe in nothing but ghosts do vacation plans to haunted museums, movie theaters, and play jokes on the people who frequent them. Satanists are probably trying to set up an HOA and do social programs for those wrongfully sent to hell. I think the ferryman of the river Styx is a taxi driver who drives too slow, and maybe the gods of death sort out all the souls to the places they're meant to be. I'm not sure whether my thoughts hold up at the end, but I really hope that's what I see when I get there.
Thank you. Yes, yay, woohoo. All right, Craig. Craig, you're going to read a Ron Padgett poem?
All right. The great Ron Padgett, his collected poems won the LA Times Book Review Prize a few years back, and William Carlos Williams Prize from Poetry Society of America. Buckets of rain hit the buildings, but we in our apartments are kept dry by the buildings they're in. The rain is rolling off the buildings and bouncing off, and the roofs keep the rain from getting us wet. The ceiling is not letting any water in. It goes spat, spat, spat on the window ledge, trying to get in. The window pane is streaked with rain, trying to come in, to go everywhere, to make everything wet. I'm lying in my bed, head near the window, aware of all this, thinking how great we win. From Great Balls of Fire.
Thank you very much.
He's alive and well, and he's got a new book out.
Yay. All right, well, I appreciate all of you coming to our lovely little event. I hope some of you, many of you, would be able to come. And Bonnie, you know what I just realized? My last name is Ticket, and so is yours.
Yes, yes. But I used to think that my family went through Ellis Island with a ticket, and that's why they got that name. However, my husband looked it up, and it's a real name, and it comes from England.
Yeah, allegedly, my name is a real name too, but I
We
think
don't know.
I think they're making it up. Anyway,
Absolutely, yeah.
I just wanted to random thoughts that pass through my brain. I have to share sometimes, and that was one of them. So, as those of you who know me know, I would like to say thank you to all of the participants. This has been wonderful and lovely, and we appreciate having you here to share in this time with us. The book is wonderful, and you've been a wonderful part of it and brought the energy that we love to have. We're pleased to be able to present this real work of art, literary and art, a real living thing. We don't publish this electronically. It's available in print. And we do that because we believe in the printed word. We hope if you don't have a copy, you'll get your copy. Contributors, we will be sending them, especially to those of you who aren't, I think most of you folks here are not anywhere near local. And so we will send them off to you. Erica, are you local? Anyway, if you want to come by distribution tomorrow, you can get your copy. For everyone else, because I've only said it 4 times, you can still get a copy for just $10. Venmo at RCC Muse. And come tomorrow between 10 and noon. If you've already purchased or want to purchase a copy, or just you want to drive through and say hello to us because we haven't seen people in a long time. Our editorial staff, again, I need to thank. This has been a wonderful, wonderful, extremely talented staff who has worked so hard. I wish I could get you inside how difficult it was for us logistically to pull together hundreds of submissions of writing and art and share them and be able to work under the circumstances. And you did a fantastic job. I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow, I hope. And everyone say hi to Alana's cat.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate all the work of all the editors.
And thank you. All right. That's what we got. Thank you for coming. And we hope we'll see you again. We're going to be continuing to do events. There's actually going to be an Inlandia reading in a week and a half, a week from this Tuesday. We'll have another reading. Keep your eye out on our Instagram, and we'll let you know how you can come to enjoy that.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you again. Take care.
Good to hear everybody's work.
Excellent.
Wonderful job tonight, everybody.
Thank you. All right. Good night.